Jola-Grace Emmanuel. She's a survivor, and she's going to be sharing with us. She's a certified life and trauma recovery coach. She lives in England. Welcome, Jola-Grace. It's such an honor to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Ma. So good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for this privilege to, be here to share my story and my experiences. I'm really humbled, and I really do appreciate you. I know because of time, I need to just bring everything, try and summarize it. But let me start from saying I'm sure some of you have heard me say it before. Some of you haven't heard me say it before, that Mommy Funke Felix-Adejumo is the chapter 1 in my journey to freedom. Okay, I'm going to get to that a little bit earlier on. I share my story, but I stand before God in gratitude for her life, because if not for her audacity, obedience to God, our boldness, I know I wouldn't be alive today. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional, but I'm just really grateful, ma. Thank you so much. Wow. So I went through domestic violence and abuse for 16 years. I was laughing when Praise was saying that some people are pastor's wife, and if the pastor's wife come and tell you that they are going through abuse, you'd be like, oh no, how can that be? And then sometimes with everything that is attached to it. But that was my story. The person that abused me was a pastor, and for a long time I felt I didn't even know that it was abuse, because there's a way you excuse people's bad behavior. You just kind of feel that, okay, he's a pastor, anything he's doing, there's a reason why he's doing it. It must be right. It must be me that is wrong. And I carried that notion for such a long time. And I remember the very first time that, because I was married to a narcissist, and I went through every kind of abuse that you can think of. So whether it was physical abuse, I experienced it. Whether it was emotional abuse, I experienced it. Verbal abuse, I experienced it. Psychological abuse, I experienced it. Financial abuse, I experienced it. And I dare to say, even sexual abuse, I experienced it. So for me, the very first time I experienced physical abuse, I remember I was pregnant with my second child. And I had given this person food, I think I must have been about 5 or 6 months pregnant. So I'd given him food, and for whatever reason, he wasn't happy with the food. So he breaks the plate on the floor, and then he gives me a big slap. I was shocked. I was like, what is going on? Because I grew up in a home where I've never heard my parents raise their voice at each other. I'm not even saying call each other names or anything. They have never raised their voice at each other. I know they do have disagreements, and we know that once they enter their room and they lock the door, they are going to sort something out. So for me, I was like, what is going on? So I ran out of the house, and I called a pastor, okay? And I told this person everything, what had happened, and it was like, oh, he's sorry, I should just go back to the house. I was going to talk to him and everything. And, I was naive. I was young. I didn't know better. I didn't know anything. And because by this time, I didn't have people around me. So got married in September in Nigeria. I got married July in Nigeria. September, I was in the UK, and I was all alone. I didn't have family or anybody around me. So this person said, oh, don't worry, I'll talk to him. And, that was how it all started. And every time there was an incident, every time something happened, because he had told me, anything that goes on in this house, you don't talk to anybody else. You only share with this one person. And this one person, who is a big pastor, will always tell me, don't worry, just pray. We'll sit down and do counseling all day. We will just talk and talk and talk and talk, and nothing changed. In fact, things aggravated. And that's why I came to the phrase that I normally say, that abuse tolerated becomes aggravated. I remember there was a day we were in the car, and there was something happened. There was a disagreement, And it just parked all of a sudden, and he asked me to get out of the car. And we were in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, well, get out of the car. In fact, I don't even think that I had, because again, because of the financial abuse that I went through, I didn't really have money on me. You know, I studied accounting. I had a master's in financial decision analysis. I was going to take my professional exam. This man said, no, you don't need to write any professional exam. You will not need it because you're going to be working with me in the church. My dad was not even happy with me for a long time. That why would you go to school, do all of this, and then you're not building a career? But, you know, he convinced me that I didn't need to build any career. I was automatically going to, you know, work with him in the ministry. And I remember I'd go back to the story of when I was in the car on one occasion where I sort of said, I want to go and look for a job. I want to get a job. I don't want to do this again. He said, if I refuse to work with him, he will beat me up and send me to my father, and my father will not recognize me again. And it was at that point that I thought, okay, this is really serious. So on that incident, when he said, get out of the car, because I sort of know the sequence, how things happen. So it will say, do something, because narcissists kind of make everything about themselves. So is either my way or the highway. If you cannot obey me, he said things to me like, if you cannot obey my instructions, then get out of my life. If you cannot obey my instructions, get out of my life. So he says that thing almost on a daily basis. When he asks me to do something, I'm like, I really don't want to do this thing. Get out of my life. So it started, you know, getting aggressive. Get out of the car. And I knew that once he says, before I do something you will regret, the next thing was going to be physical abuse. The 3 children were at the back of the car. So I felt, because I tried to protect him, I didn't want the children to see him, you know, abusing me and doing those things. So I felt, okay, I know the next thing is going to be, I will be hit, and I don't want my children to see it. So I got out of the car in the middle of nowhere. And mommy, I walked back home because I did not have any money on me to even take a taxi. And the distance that I must have walked back home was about an hour or more. And, you know, those things over time, anytime I speak to this man, this pastor that was the only person I could talk to, it would just be the same thing. Well, it's a difficult marriage. You know, you guys, you need to keep praying more. He would tell me I need to be more submissive, because when we are called to his office to talk, my abuser will say, well, she doesn't respect me. She's very disrespectful. This one, that one, that one. And I'll be like, okay, I tried. There was a time that when I want to serve him his food, I would kneel down, mama. And when I tell people, they just laugh, are you serious? I would kneel down to give him his food, because I thought, okay, let me just keep doing all sorts to just respect him, his respect that I wanted, but it was never enough. And I remember the day that I think that I had the worst, physical assault in my life was, we were in the room, something had happened, and he said, get out of the room. And I felt, normally I would leave, because after a point, I became like a zombie. Anything he says, I would do. And I said, I don't know what happened to me that day. I just kind of felt, I'm not leaving. If you're upset, you have a problem, then you leave, because this is our room after all, at the end of the day. So he started getting aggravated. He was shouting. I was like, before I do something, what are you going to do? I thought it was only the 2 of us that was there anyway. So what are you going to do? So I was very adamant that day. I refused to obey him to get out of the room. And he got up, removed his belt, and he beats me and beats me and beats me and beats me. I went to my wardrobe, tried to start taking my things out, because I think at that point in time I've heard, okay, if somebody's beating you, don't leave. And then he came to where I was, said, you want to leave? I'll help you pack. He started kicking me, After that experience, he called this man, who was his, in quotes, spiritual father, and told him by himself, I just finished beating up my wife. So the man says, oh, come over. Counseling session again. If I remember, we slept in that man's house overnight because the counseling went. Oh, so what did you do? What happened? So pray. So this. So the same thing over and over and over again. This man will be in pastor's meeting in the church. He will talk down at me. I will make a suggestion. He will tell me that my idea is stupid. My idea is senseless. Do I want to break the church over his head? Anything that happens that goes wrong was my fault. It got to a point that if I was, if anybody was close to me, it would tell me, why are you close to that person? Don't you know that person is trying to use you? If the person is a man, it would say that person wants to sleep with you. So it got to a point I was so frustrated. I stopped speaking to people. They would send me messages, I will not reply. Even my family members, I will not reply because I was just tired. Because every night, this person would take my phone and go through my phone. Why is this person saying this to you? Why are you saying this to this person? What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of that? It was draining me. And I remembered on one particular occasion, so in his office, he made me figurehead. So that if there was any negative he wanted to do, like sack a staff or give somebody query, it would be me. So it would tell me, in fact, he would draft the letter and bring it to me and tell me to sign. Sometimes he would even sign and tell me to give it to the staff. So a lot of times, it made people to see me as a bad boss. So in fact, there was a day he said, do you know that people don't like you in the office? I said, I didn't know. He said, so when we get to the office tomorrow, he's going to call the staff meeting. And he will tell the staff, all the staff to write what they don't like about him and what they don't like about me. And that they should not put their names so that I will see that they don't like me. I was like, I don't even understand what is going on. But he in front of people, he will say, but one thing that he does, which was when I left and I was sharing my story, a lot of people didn't believe me. Because narcissists, they display something called PDA, public display of affection. So when we're in church, he will go up the pulpits. Oh, my beautiful wife. She's so gorgeous. She's the best wife in the world. And sometimes just before he stood up from beside me, he will have whispered to me, why is the choir wearing white and red? I don't supposed to be wearing blue. He would just say something and say, you must be very stupid. It's your fault. He will have called me names. And then he will go up and say, my wife, let me celebrate my wife. He will just say this, and I'll be like, is it me that is talking about, or is it somebody else? Because in my mind, I couldn't just fathom, I couldn't comprehend how somebody will be like that. I remember the first time, before he allowed me to do anything ministerially, it took years. I think it was I left in 2017, in 2016, finally I agreed. And that day, he made my life miserable. It made my life so miserable. It was time to go up to the stage to preach. He sat beside me and he was telling me everything that was wrong with the program. How I didn't know what I was doing. How I was this, I'm like, how am I supposed to go and say anything? I was just like, God, I didn't even respond to him. Sometimes when he's saying those horrible things to me, I would be laughing. Just so that people will think, because I'm laughing so that I will not cry. Because sometimes I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? People don't know what he's saying to me. And so it was very hard. When I was telling people this was what I was going through, this was what was happening to me. I remember one of my birthdays, some of the people that was close to us were calling me and saying, I can imagine today you pastor will spoil you with all the things, because he preaches about marriage. All the things he's been preaching. I was just thinking in my mind that, this, we don't even one pencil like this, he did not buy for me. One pencil like this, he did not buy for me. Like, what are you people talking about? So there was a lot of pretense. There was a lot of, strife. Let me just fast forward. I know because of our time, I will be sharing my story. I've got a program coming up on the weekend. I'll be sharing my story, full story at that. By the grace of God, I launched the Bird Initiative in 2015, and I remember that was how I met Mama. I met her in the UK, and because they had trained me that anything that goes on in this marriage must stay in this marriage. Even when I met her, Mama just said, are you okay? I just said, I'm fine. She just said, no, you're not fine. What is wrong? She was able to deduce that something was wrong. So I broke down and I spoke to her. And that was how she came into my life. She was counseling me. She was encouraging me. She was telling me, to be strong and everything like that. And I remember on another incident happened. This was in 2016. He started yelling. I can't remember what happened. He started yelling. He came inside the room I was throwing things, and I ran, because where we are, there were a lot. It was in the office premises. There were people around. And I ran out of the house. I picked my phone. I think it was just God that made that thing happen that day, because I first of all called the man that I said, this is the only person you can speak to. That person didn't pick his call. And I called Reverend Funke Adejumo. I said, Mommy, this is what is going on. I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Mommy was upset. She said, is your daddy still alive? I said, yes, ma. She said, give me your daddy's number. And for the first time, my dad, Reverend Funke, called my dad and told my dad, if you want your daughter alive, go and remove her from that marriage. And that was the first time my father knew about 16 years of abuse. And my dad was like, why haven't you told us anything? Why have you kept quiet? And I said, I felt I failed you. I felt I'm the first daughter. How can I come and tell you that my marriage is not working? My younger ones are looking up to me. I felt ashamed. I felt I'd failed. And my dad said, no, start coming home now. I tried to take my kids with me that day. He wasn't allowing them to follow me. My dad was just calling me like, be coming. I said, he's not allowing me to bring. He said, just be coming. I got to my house, my parents welcomed me and all of that, talked about everything. And let me just say this, that my dad is an Anglican reverend. He's those of you that know Scripture Union, that was my background. My dad was an executive in the Scripture Union. So he's not the kind of person that would say, leave your marriage. He's the kind of person that, being in marriage, your marriage should work and everything. But my dad is not even just say, let me think, what is going on? No. Come. And my dad says something till tomorrow. He says, I'd rather have a divorced daughter than have a dead daughter. I remember that 2016, he came with his family. They came to beg. He's sorry. He's not going to do it again. Blah, 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 blah. I went back. Which is why, when people are blaming victims now, I say, you don't understand what's going on in their mind. Just be patient with them. I went back and I knew that I shouldn't have gone back then, but I went back. But since that time, I really celebrate my dad. Dad, if you're watching, I love you. And Mommy, I thank you for defying religion, society, and culture and fighting for the life of your daughter. Because I remember what they keep, Mommy, my dad keeps saying, Reverend Funke told us that the covenant of life is superior to the covenant of marriage. It just kept saying that thing over and over and over again. I went back and I thought, okay, things will change. But things did not change. There was still all the abuse. There was still all the verbal abuse. There was still incidents of physical abuse after that. There was still a lot of shaming me in public, humiliating me in public. Financially, I had to go to him. It was the everything, the financier, the everything. If anything, I had to go and beg him and say, I need this money, I need this, that, I need this, I need that. It was just a mess. And so I remember that he used to go when we go shopping. He will when I want to buy clothes when we were living together in the UK. He will buy oversized clothes for me. I was naive. I didn't even know what was going on. In fact, until I met Reverend Funke Adejumo, I didn't know that I was being abused. I didn't know the word. I didn't know that word existed. I didn't know what it meant. So I went back, and then so my dad was always calling me, how are you? What's going on? Are you? And just trying to encourage me and support me. And then it got to a point, an incident happened in 2017. We were having a rally or something. He was having a conference in his church, and we were walking there. So we had this T-shirt that was made for, when they made the customized T-shirts. I had that T-shirt on with a joggers, because it was supposed to be a prayer walk or something like that. And because at that point in time, I'd been feeling heavy inside me. I don't know if I talked about, there was a time that he asked me to sack somebody. He employed somebody that I couldn't pay for. And this person got upset in the office and he asked me to sack the person. And this person came to me to speak down at me, to talk at me. The person came to abuse me. And that day, the pain I felt in my heart, it was so much. I took overdose, Mama, because that day I just felt if I died, I'll not feel pain again.
Wow.
At this point, in 2017, I had overcome the suicide ideation, but I just felt I was going to sleep and not wake up. So all of that was going on in my mind. And so I was quiet. And because anytime I'm quiet, it just feels I'm being stubborn. I'm trying to prove a point. I'm doing something. So he would now start his own silent treatment. If I say I'm sick, he would say I'm pretending. I remember there was a time I slept. There was a day I slept and I blanked out. I knew everything was. We were in the same room. This person did not come to where I was to say, "Are you okay?" And I thought, if I die, this is where I will just die.
Wow.
He came to meet me that day and he said, "You are the most indecently dressed woman here. I need you to leave this place. Go
wow.
change." Something just broke inside me. I called my dad. I said, "Daddy,"
you're begging me not to end the program. And we still have one more speaker. The chair is in the room. Oh, Jola, you know I'm still going to bring you back.
Yes,
because my husband and I canceled with you and that man for 6 hours, about 6 hours in our house one day.
Yes.
Woo! I just don't want to say anything. You are a survivor. You want to give us a parting word? Because I'll still bring you back, like I said, for Navigate with FFA. You're going to tell us how you overcame and how eventually you escaped. You're going to tell us in full, but just tell us briefly before I bring up the third speaker.
Thank you so much,
you made me cry.
Thank you so much, Ma. I mean, like I said, by the grace of God, it was because of you and because of my parents and my family. I exited. And like Praise said, I didn't exit because I wanted to divorce. My parents just said, leave to safety. Leave to safety. That was all. But I mean, I left in October, and this man filed for divorce in December. So I don't know, maybe he had wanted to divorce before, So that was what happened. But after I came out, I realized the depth of the wound that I had inside me. I was hearing his voices in my head. Anytime I wanted to do anything, I was hearing, "You're stupid, you're foolish, you're a problem in my life." I was just hearing voices in my head. And I had to go for therapy. I had to go for counseling. As you know, back then, when people would look at me, then they would say, "You are very beautiful." I'll be looking at them like, "Who is beautiful? Who's baby you're talking about?" I didn't feel beautiful. I felt ugly. I just felt horrible, like a piece of stale bread. So I had to go and I started counseling. I sat myself down. I asked God questions. I was angry. I was upset with God. I said, "God, I mean, I tried. I know that my righteousness is like filthy rags, but I did try. Why did I go through this? And I was able to." So, I mean, like I said, when I will be able to share, because I've been able to glean a lot of lessons. There's something I called rise from abuse. How to rise, out of a traumatic situation that you've been through. Where the first one, which I'll quickly share in 2-3 minutes, is reconcile with your reality. Because nobody gets married and say, I want the man I'm married to be. As girls, we all have that, and we lived happily ever after. So sometimes when we're in that situation, we are telling ourselves, "I didn't happen." So I have to tell myself, okay, yes, it happened to me. It happened. Yes, I was abused. The marriage did not work. And it was because I reconciled with my situation, and I told myself, I'm not the marriage failed, but I'm not a failure. So I was able to reconcile with what had happened to me. And then I started investigating. That's the I. Okay, so what happened? How did this happen? And I realized that when I told my parents about the person I wanted to marry, my dad said, "I don't like that man." He did not know why. But because he felt, as my first daughter, I want her to be happy, he allowed me to go ahead with it. So I said, so next time, listen, if they tell you something, don't be saying, "He's a pastor, he's a pastor." I don't say he's a pastor, he cannot do anything wrong. So I investigated. I realized that there was a lot of rush. So next time I know what to do. I'll be able to tell people, don't do this, don't do that. And then I started rediscovering myself. Who am I? I did not know who I was. My self-esteem was gone. I was just like a nobody, a nothing. I started rediscovering myself. I engaged coaches. I engaged therapists to help me, counselors. I went through a process, to help me to be able to find me and be able to live the kind of life I wanted to live. And then my environment, that's the last thing. I had to just check my environment, like, okay, who are the people in my circle? Because mommy, you will not believe that after I'd left, about 2 years or 1.5 years I had left, this pastor, that pastor that I said I could only speak to, called me one day and he said, Jola, I still believe your marriage can work. You know, this is, and I said, excuse me, sir, I have a question to ask you, sir. I said, I called the name of his daughter. I said, if I was your daughter, sir, you know everything that has happened. From the first time he slapped me when I was pregnant with my 17-year-old daughter, up until today, you know everything. Please, sir, what counsel will you give me if I was your daughter? Guess what he said to me, Mama? He said, let's leave my daughter out of this.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am. Since that day, I just like, okay, this is it.
You are definitely coming back. You still have a lot to share with us. We're going to pieces everything. Rise, investigate, discover yourself, and then the environment. That's where we're going to start from when you come as my guest again. Thank you for being so vulnerable to share your story with us. She is not lying. I witnessed some of these things. She's not lying. She just told the truth. And the man, in case that man is watching us, you know that she did not lie. In fact, she has not said anything. She's not said enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for choosing to take your life in your hand and to own your space. And now the comfort you received, you are sharing with other people. So please, let's get this straight. We spoke about that yesterday, and Praise also mentioned it. A man can be an abuser and a woman can be an abuser. And in the course of this 5-day event, you will be hearing some things about men. So we're talking about human beings. We're not just talking about women or about men or child or religion or church or mosque. We're talking about human beings. People are saying to me, please, we have data. Let's just continue. We'll continue tomorrow. And I'm going to bring Dr. Jola back by God's grace. So please go ahead and like this video and share it. I said that somebody's just saying, please like it and share it. Please go ahead. It's going to help. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you. And please know that you are beautiful. You are stunning. And you know I'm close to you. You are beautiful, not only outside, but inside. And you are a survivor. We give it up to you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Get ready for my invitation because you are coming in a bigger way. Thank you.